All right, let's do this. I'm back for an off-season stream here on Amateur Hour Sports, covering some of the latest around the Toronto Raptors news sphere. Today, we're going to be talking about, well, in the Raptors space, we're going to be talking about Zach Edey once again, because he continues to dominate the conversation. He continues to dominate comment sections on this channel in particular, and I'd seriously like to get to the bottom of this. We're also going to be talking about a fresh name here, one we haven't talked about yet in the offseason, really. That's Chris Boucher. We're going to talk about what the potential for his future may hold, and if that future is with the Raptors. We're also going to be talking about the NBA playoffs, of course, which are ongoing. One of the conference finals is over. And along the way, I'll be answering any and all questions that you may have in the chat. If you want to talk, if you want to get something discussed, please let me know. Also, for the people who don't know where I have been, we'll also reveal, I guess, the troubles that have been going on with my content schedule lately, because just when you think you figure things out in life, you get a nasty old curveball or change-up or knuckleball, whatever you want to call it, and throws you off course a little bit. But doing my best to get back on track. Have done 2 videos in the main channel this week. Put one out today. Usually I do these streams on Tuesday. Today is Wednesday. If you are watching live, I usually do these on Tuesday. A little bit too much went on Tuesday. So I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. I've been leaving you guys hanging a little bit too often. Wanted to get this stream out for Wednesday, and this would be the live stream for the week. Thanks so much for tuning in if you are here live. Going to be live for about an hour today. It's 5:35 Eastern time. Right now, I'll go to about 6:30, and then I got to go to the gym. But yes, I got to go to the gym then, because I can get back and watch Minnesota Timberwolves versus Dallas Mavericks Game 5. And that promises to be another great game. It's a shame that series is just 3-1, because it has been an entertaining series. Anyways, reason I've had some troubles with the schedule as of late. I guess that's a good spot to lead off here. Just shit situation. So last weekend, it was 2 weekends ago in Canada at least. It was a holiday. It was Victoria Day. I was in Montreal from the Friday to the Sunday. I was there for a soccer game with my men's league team. I mean, we were there to have fun in Montreal, but we also had an exhibition game along the way as a little bit of an excuse to travel. That was fun. Fun time in Montreal. Good game. That was my first game back from my ACL injury, which was done about 11 months ago. So was happy to be playing again. Have played again since then, and things are going pretty well on the injury front. Because actually, people have asked about the knee. I was going to say, for those who care, people actually do care about my knee. So yeah, I'm back to playing sports. Not quite at 100%, but this isn't gone just yet. I was already slow, and I've certainly lost at least half a step. That'll hopefully come back, but that was tough. Anyways. After Montreal, I was wiped. On the Monday, it was a holiday. I hadn't seen my girlfriend in a while, or my dog, so decided just to chill with my girlfriend and my dog for the day. Had some plans with my girlfriend as well, just needed that full day off, I think. Took my holiday there, didn't do a video, and felt as though, hey, rest of the week, I'll be back on track. I had been back on track with the content creation where, I was really locked into doing stuff. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, videos in this channel. Tuesdays, at least Tuesdays, do a stream. Was going to do Tuesday and Thursday streams in this channel. In the offseason, once there's no games, I will get going on that because there won't be any games interfering at all that I want to watch. So I will be doing Tuesday and Thursday streams. Have been doing Tuesday and Thursday uploads on the second channel, Amateur Sports 2. We've been doing really well with content on the reactions channel, which is great. The reactions channel is actually crushing for views right now, which is awesome. Been doing well with the main channel as well. Everything was going swimmily. Took the Monday off. Thought the rest of the week would be just normal. And then, this is where the shit went south. So the vacation, when it came and went, it was a good time for the vacation. It's because I really felt like I needed a little getaway to reset. And then, thank goodness, I got the reset in Thursday. Very unfortunately, I don't know if anybody's ever dealt with it before. Me and my girlfriend found bed bugs in our apartment. Just an absolute disaster situation. Almost embarrassing. I don't know why I feel like this, but it can literally happen to anybody at any time for any reason. But we found them Thursday morning. Just became an absolute disaster of a few days. We have a pretty good size apartment, but it's an apartment in Toronto, not a ton of space. So we just had to completely take the day to just clean as much as possible and to figure out the whole situation. It was so stressful. Still is, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday were some of the most stressful days I've ever experienced. We're kind of getting on track, which is awesome. We are working well here. Fiorentina, what? Sorry, I didn't realize. Anyways, getting back on track. It was just, that Thursday was just all the stuff in that room was either we had to completely check over or run through the washing machine and dryer on super hot temperatures, like literally 2 days straight, nonstop running the washing machine and dryer. We're kind of in close to a spot where we're like settled. Me and my girlfriend, we're at a spot where we're close to like settled, and we can just like live like the same, like the every day is the same sort of thing, where we're like, we have strategy in place for cleaning everything. It's gonna take some time. It's gonna continue to be precautions on a day-to-day basis. We're doing everything we can necessary, but it's just awful situation for a few days. Super stressful, but figured that out over the weekend. Back to yesterday, had more stuff to do. There will be some other stuff that just pops up, but we're pretty close to being through with that whole situation. Anyways, it's being figured out. We're just gonna keep pushing through, and I'll be okay. It was just, but that came up, and that just completely derailed all of my work for for a few days, including yesterday, because yesterday was a big cleaning day. Anyways, back on track, hopefully, as of today. There's so many, how many times have I said already this summer? Back on track with content, but hopefully today was like of the first day of getting back on track, figuring things out, and we're here for the stream today. And you're here for the content, not necessarily here for my whole story. Let's say what's up to the people in the chat. Thank you so much to Winner One, Thomas Perry, one of the members, Dat Canadian, my moderator, Adam Scanlon, also here as well, and Royce. Thank you guys so much for joining. All right, yeah. First things first. Oh, well, let's read some of the comments here. Reno says, I don't understand why people would want to trade Jakob Poeltl. There are not many unique centers in this league like him, and neither there are not many unique centers in this league like him, and neither do we don't need another center. We don't need a center. Yeah, that's my confusion here. Absolutely, that is my confusion here. For sure. Phone call. I'm not gonna pick that up. Yeah, nothing you can do. Just gonna push through Thomas Perry. Indeed, I don't know if anybody's ever had him. It's horrible. This is the second time in my life I've had him. Had him in my room 12, maybe more years ago. Just tedious, but you know, working through it. Greg said, I'm moving Saturday. Have been packing since 3:30. My goodness, moving is stressful as well. I'm gonna be moving 2 months from now. Gonna be moving, so. Can't wait for that to take over. Also, how about a Moses Moody trade? That's an interesting one. I don't know. I think the Warriors would be open to trading him. What would be his contract situation? So I guess he's extension eligible this summer. I doubt he'll get an extension. He's probably going to want to play one more year and see where he figures things out. Yeah. Yeah, I imagine he's going to play one more year. Then he's going to be a restricted free agent. I wouldn't mind a Moses Moody trade. Especially if the Raptors lose Gary Trent Jr. to free agency. We'll kind of see what that trade sort of looks like. I'm not sure the Raptors are in a position right now to fork over assets to make a trade happen, but I've been a fan of Moses Moody since the draft, since he was drafted. So I would be interested in something like that there. But Gregory, one of the members in here, what is going on? My constant thought I had trade for Cavs pick at 20 so we can pick back to back. I don't know. I don't really feel like investing in this draft. I know you don't have to give away a lot because the draft's weaker, but I don't feel like the Raptors need to be investing with trades right now. I think the trades are more so get off the stuff we don't want. One of those things is Bruce Brown. One of those things is going to be Chris Boucher. But I don't think the Raptors should look to be like buyers necessarily right now. Just selling off the pieces. Because, even around 1920, there's not like a whole lot I feel like the Raptors need to have from a draft perspective. You know what I mean? Pearl's not a number one center on a winning team. I certainly think he can be. I don't know. Why not? I don't see why not. I look at Al Horford is in an NBA Finals again. I know he can shoot, but, he's been getting cooked a little bit on defense, and here he is in NBA Finals. We're talking about guys like Daniel Gafford about to be in NBA Finals. Like, who would have said that? I know Derek Lively's there as well, but Jakob Poeltl is an upper tier starting center. I don't really agree that he can't be a center on a winning team. Absolutely not. I think it'd be a very good winning center. I think a lot of good teams would want a player like that who's such a great rim protector. I don't know. Well, Jakob used to drop 20+ with the Freddie pick and roll action. I don't know. Look, I'm not saying 20 points per game, but he's a guy who can average 12, 13, 14 points per game here. Capitalize our number of drivers, Scotty Barrett, and let's say quickly in pick and rolls. We actually have an arsenal for 3-pointers. Yeah, with floor spacing, the pick and roll game is going to be there. Absolutely. I mean, I still feel like Jakob Poeltl is a great center to have on this team. And even if you don't really think so, you have to acknowledge he's a good player. And, it's a case of who replaces him. If you're hell-bent on getting rid of Poeltl, fair enough, you don't like Jakob Poeltl. I don't really see any viable way to improve on Poeltl for this team. So that's another reason where I'm like, I don't really want to make a trade here because who the hell is going to replace him? You can't replace him in the draft. Like, come on. Zach Edey's not going to do that. And in free agency, Are the Raptors going to be an actual player for a guy like Nick Claxton? Nick Claxton is going to make more money. He's not as he's going to make more money than Pirtle by probably a significant degree. And what does he bring that Pirtle doesn't bring? I don't know. I don't think much. Gaff must be living his best life. Got away from Jordan Poole and the Wizard. Yeah, I mean, you look at PJ Washington. Who would have thought that he could be such an important piece towards a potential NBA championship? Charlotte is just so unserious. Look at Daniel Gafford. Daniel Gafford, probably Derek Lively's the more significant center there, but Daniel Gafford, who would have thought he'd show up and be a significant piece towards a team that's likely about to be in the NBA Finals? It's just absolutely crazy the way things have gone down, you know? I don't think there's a rush to get a center here. As I spoke about in the video earlier today, I'm not sure if you guys caught it, but like the key point I'm harping on is that there are things that are way more important right now for the Raptors to address. I'd make a case that every single position other than center is at a bigger need to be addressed than the center position at the moment. I think we're starting off hot with this, so I'll go out of. I have a bit of an order here I was going to go, but we're going to go out of order here. And basically, where I want to start here is there is such a sticking point with Raptors fans right now regarding needing a center, needing to replace Jakob Poeltl. And I just have never understood it. And I just do not understand the infatuation right now with Zach Edey potentially ending up on this team. And I really want to try and get to the bottom of it over the course of the discussion here. Lots of comments coming through. I think a lot of the people maybe in the stream, perhaps on my side, but even still, it just doesn't really make sense to me why there is this big desire from the majority of Raptors fans to bring in a center. Why is center regarded as the most important position to address the draft? I don't know, just sometimes I'm completely fine with being in the minority on a certain thing. I'm completely fine with people disagreeing with me. But what I like to do in those scenarios is try and come to, go through the process, go down the path of how somebody could come to that conclusion that center is the most important position. Zach Edey is the right pick for this team. And I just can't get there. I just cannot get there with this discussion. I cannot get to the point where I'm thinking, yeah, I understand why somebody would want Zach Edey. And it's such an overwhelming amount of Raptors fans that feel this way. 70% of voters here say they'd be happy if the Raptors selected Zach Edey with the 19th overall pick. I'd be definitely in the 30% that say no here. There's just bigger positional needs, and personally, I'm not convinced on Zach Edey. It's a shame. Look, I want to support Canadian players, but just trying to think about what's best for the Raptors, I don't think it's Zach Edey. And spilling over from the Zach Edey discussion, which granted, people here are saying that they'd be happy with Zach Edey. That's not necessarily meaning that they wouldn't be happier with a different position. They'd just be happy with Zach Edey. But even still, I also asked what positions should the Raptors focus on drafting with the 19th overall pick. And 60% of people said center. Like, the overwhelming majority of people think that the center is the most important position for the Raptors to address at the draft. And again, I just cannot understand it. There's just this desire for Zach Edey to end up on the Raptors. Even mock drafts now, like this one on the Bleacher Report, saying that Zach Edey is the man for the Raptors. Also, the pro comparison being JV is just astonishing. But anyways, it just, I just cannot get to that point. I don't see why this is necessary for the Raptors to move with. I agree that the Raptors need a center, but I also feel like they need a point guard more than they need a center. They're probably going to need a shooting guard more than they're going to need a center. They need a forward more than they need a center. And yeah, they also could use a third center for this team. But the desire here to replace Jakob Poeltl, the desire here to, your most significant asset for acquiring a player in the offseason is that 19th overall pick, using that on a center, it just doesn't sit with me for whatever reason. And the Raptors, yes, a center is something they should add, but backup point guard's bigger and more important. Big wing defender is bigger and more important. And if Gary Trent Jr. leaves in free agency, shooting guard, floor spacing becomes a whole lot more important there. Jakob Poeltl and Kelly Olynyk, I could make the case, is the best positional depth the Raptors have here. They don't have a backup point guard. If Gary Trent's here, okay, they've got Gary Trent, Grady Dick for that 2 guard, and that's your most sound 1-2 punch in the depth chart. You've got RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes, who are backed up by Ochai Agbaji, who's solid in that position, but I think you're the most assured with Jakob Poeltl, who's a high-quality starting center, and Kelly Olynyk is the backup there. When Jakob Poeltl's out, you do need to add in more size. You need to add in a sizable third center. I agree, because if Jakob Poeltl's out, it can't just be Kelly Olynyk. You need another rim protector 100%. But again, the hierarchy of priorities here, the hierarchy of needs, the center is just not at the top of this list. So I'm trying to explore, what is it about Zach Edey that people are so enamored by? What is it about him? What is it about Edey that other people are seeing that I'm not seeing here? I understand this is a back-to-back National Player of the Year. I understand that, but I said he's also 7'4" in socks and he's got a 7'11" wingspan. But again, I keep pushing. The reality is the defense. It's the defense in space. It's the pick and roll defense. It's getting picked on the perimeter. I struggle. I think he's got a high floor, but I don't think he brings as much to the Raptors as somebody else with that 19th overall pick would. And again, I think what the infatuation here is, honestly, in the least disrespectful way possible, understanding the ins and outs of the draft is difficult. Like, outside of the top 5-10, how much is, honestly, with the most respect possible, how much is the casual fan really looking at the draft? Every year I do tons of content centered around the draft. And even last season, for the 13th overall pick, I do tons of videos because I love covering the draft. I want to educate as much as possible on the players involved with the draft. Even then, people some people just don't like the draft content. They're just not as interested in these players. They're not interested until the player actually ends up in a Toronto Raptors uniform. Then it becomes, okay, who is this guy? Let's figure this out. But for Zach Edey, you've got a player, like I said, back-to-back Player of the Year in college. You've got that. You've also got the Canadian aspect. Here's a Canadian player who played at the FIBA World Cup in 2023 and won a bronze medal with Team Canada over there. The potential Zach Edey ends up on, who knows, could he end up on the Olympic roster? I don't think so, but I guess there's a chance he could end up on the Olympic roster because there's such a, although it wouldn't make sense for him to do that because he's got to work on getting ready for the NBC. Anyways, maybe he would make it if he wanted to play at the Olympics. What I'm trying to say is he's a household name to a lot of basketball fans, especially to Canadian basketball fans. So there's Raptors fans who already feel as though there's a need for a center to come into the team, which I disagree with. And here's this back-to-back National Player of the Year, and he's Canadian. You've heard of him. You know who he is. So that's where people go and make the connection there. Well, hey, it's a Canadian. I want a center. This makes sense for the Raptors draft. These mock drafts have him in the top. Some people have him super late lottery. So the discussion goes towards bringing Zach Edey into the team. That's where this fascination with the player does arise. So for me, I can understand it, but I continue to try and preach here that the center isn't the most important thing that the Raptors do need with the team. I think at 31st overall, hey, you've already addressed something earlier on. Take a chance on a player like this who has a higher floor, who has a high floor, who can play a specialist role at the very least, who at the minimum is 7'4" and can protect the rim, who can score in the post, who can score on the inside. I see the appeal of that, just not quite that high in the draft. But trying to investigate why fans are so interested in the player, I honestly just think it's down to, my day job is covering sports, mainly the NBA. My secondary job, which is creating content for the amateur production network, as I call it, it's me creating content around the NBA. So all day I'm focusing on the NBA. And in the summer leading up to draft, I'm focusing on draft prospects. That's not what everybody does. That's not how everybody handles getting basketball information. So it's just, to me, it's just, I know who Zach Edey is. This is the guy that I am interested in. But I don't know. Are there people out there who are super invested? I mean this like not disrespectfully, but the people out there who are very invested into the players available in this draft, are those people as well focused in on Zach Edey? If so, then I'd like to hear a compelling argument as to why he should be who the Raptors are seriously targeting and making their priority with the 19th overall pick. And hey, if he goes earlier and it's not something the Raptors can address in the draft, I still don't think a center is the priority for this team in the offseason. I'd like to pick one up, but not before the Raptors worry about backup point guard, working on their defense, working on bringing in floor spacing to the team. And then at that point, hey, yeah, a center is definitely something the Raptors do need to consider in this position, of course. Just I don't know. I'm trying. I hate it. I hate having to be on this side of the argument for a Canadian player. I really, really do. But somebody's got to educate me. Somebody's got to put me on to Zach Edey for real. Yeah, that's right. Just looking through some of the chat here. Colloquial Health, I haven't seen anything. Barrett, shooting guard, Diggs, RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett, look, positionally, yeah, could he play as a shooting guard for sure, but I wouldn't necessarily list him as that in a depth chart. Like, Gary Trent's going to start at the 2 if Gary Trent's here. RJ Barrett would start in a forward position alongside Scotty Barnes. I don't consider RJ Barrett to be a shooting guard. Even if you do, you still need to bring in shooting in the forward position because Barrett's not, well, he did shoot the shit out of the ball. You need to bring in a floor spacer for that position regardless. If Gary Trent leaves, you need to bring in a floor spacer, 100%. How do we feel about Andrew Wiggins? Pretty easy for me to say no there. I actually talked about a potential Wiggins trade a couple weeks ago, I think, in a stream. And the mock trade in question was literally just giving Andrew Wiggins away to the Raptors. And I was like, that's a big contract. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the contract there, but he's got 3 years left on his deal. He's making a lot of money. It's really looking like he is on the decline. Injuries are kind of getting in the way. Yeah, I think the Warriors will struggle to get off this contract. It's 26, then 28, then $30 million. That's going to be a tough one to get off. That's how much money? That's $85 million over the next 3 years. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. How much is that? That's $28 million a year. More than 28. 28, about 28. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for Andrew Wiggins, I think, at this present point, who did not look like he was close to 100% last season, but still a risky one to take on right now, for sure. I completely agree with your take on the Raptors' center position, but Zach could be a real star because he can be a big draw. I don't see the star appeal. I see him being a big draw. I think he'd be super popular because he is Canadian. And look, if the Raptors take him at 19th overall, again, it won't be my first choice, but I'm going to support him. I'll support the decision and be like, look, they like it. They like what they see. But I just think it'd be tough to get game time even there. It'd be tough to get play time. It'd be tough to manufacture that. Unless you're just dedicated to playing Olynyk as a stretch four and not stretch four, but what's the opposite of a stretch four? Like a big four? You're playing like a double big sort of system, which he's capable of doing. But I see a bigger appeal in Olynyk still being the backup center, having the floor spacing there. But I just really worry about the defense again. I don't think the shooting from the combine is for real. I'm not sure anybody's gonna think that way. I don't know. I really just don't see it. I don't know. I'm trying. I don't see it. I've done so much content on. I don't know. I feel like I'm covering this guy. I feel like I talked too much about Zach Edey, honestly, but it's just he continues to be a big point of of conversation there. What about a guy? What are your thoughts on Tyler Smith? Yeah, definitely an interesting player for the size. He's another one where I worry about defense, perhaps a little bit, maybe a bit with the open space, but great size, can really shoot the three ball well. Would be certainly an interesting one for the Raptors to look at in around the 19th overall pick. I think there's a little bit more upside there. A solid athletic big, yeah. Just because of that floor spacing, there's certainly some appeal over there. What about Mobley? Oh my God, Mobley would be crazy if we ended up with Scotty Barnes and Mobley on the same team. You guys think Zach Edey can work? I think it can work. I have doubts. I have a lot of doubts. That's the thing. Zach Canadian, I'm a fan of production over popularity. Well, it would be weird. Zach Edey would be a really weird one for the Raptors front office as well. This would be a very atypical. This would be a very unusual selection for the Raptors. It's not a bet on upside, really. It's not a type of position they've ever prioritized. It would be really strange for the Raptors to go Zach Edey's direction at the draft. I'm not going to rule it out. Absolutely not going to rule it out. But it'd be a strange one for sure. There's a lot of things that need to be improved before that, in my opinion. Once again, Carlton Carrington. Yeah, I like him at 19 overall as well. I think he'll actually be the video topic for Friday's video this week, if you look out for that. I do want to do a draft, but I think Carlton Carrington is the next guy on my list because I really am interested in him at 19th overall, entering to Ryan K there. Did we do scouting report for Shannon? Who's Shannon? I guess not. Oh, Terrence Shannon. Oh my God, sorry. Long day. I've talked about him a little bit. He'll probably be somebody I do a full video on as well. Also, Khalil Ware is a guy I should do a full video on. Khalil Ware, I think specific guys I want to get a full video on. Isaiah Collier, for sure. Tristan Da Silva. Tyler Smith. Khalil Ware. I've already done Zach Edey. Might do another Zach Edey, actual draft profile video because I haven't done that yet. Terrence Shannon I want to do. I should have spot. Carlton Carrington, probably going to be this week, as I said. Other than that, might do Yves Messi because he's a center and people are interested in centers. Maybe I'll do a video just dedicated to centers. Maybe that's something that I should look to do as well. But those are the guys that I would look out for draft profiles on the channel. I think good trade for Bruce Brown to Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, Moses Moody, first-round pick to the Raptors. Well, if you're getting Moses Moody and a first-round pick, that might be appealing. The salaries have become a problem because Andrew Wiggins makes more than Bruce Brown does, and you're taking on the Moses Moody money. The salaries have become a bit of an issue there. Unless the Raptors could unload Chris Boucher in the deal to salary match, then all of a sudden that becomes a whole lot more interesting, actually. I think Chris Boucher could actually do a job for the Warriors. That's actually starting to make a bit of sense. We get off the Chris Boucher contract. We get a first. We get Moses Moody. We'll take the Andrew Wiggins contract. We'll take a stab at it. I actually don't hate that, Carmax. I actually don't. That actually is interesting. I wonder if the Warriors would be interested in that. Is that worth it for us? We get the first for Bruce Brown, so that's good. I think a Warriors future first is very valuable, by the way. We get Moses Moody as the penalty for taking on the Andrew Wiggins contract, and we get off Chris Boucher in the process. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. What do you guys think? Get a current NBA player as a backup point guard and draft a big. I would prefer probably the other way, but it's just as difficult to find a backup point guard in free agency as it would be to find like a backup big. So maybe that's the thought process some people have. I'm just not seeing it that way because I see it the other way around. Maybe there's more bigs available in that region that are more interesting, you know, like the Filipowskis, like the Khalil Wares, like the Edis, Tyler Smith, Eves MC. Yeah, maybe that's it. That people think it's easier to address the point guard situation in the offseason, where I think it's the center situation. It's easier to address in the offseason. Yeah, I maybe that's the way around. I'm not seeing it as well. Smart would be drafted power forward. Team is desperate in that position. I don't see. I see that now we're going. Oh, somebody's in a whole other direction with Gio the Sage here. I think power forward would be a spot where the Raptors, or just forward in general, is a spot as well to address. There's a lot of things that need addressing, you know. Could do a tier list like top 3 by position. Yeah, maybe just each position. Do a video, or I might just get to all of them individually, just because I like to learn about them more in depth, and doing a video forces me to learn about them more in depth. And I like to just, you know, they're fun videos to do. Maybe I'll just do a bunch. Then maybe close to the draft, go through the center position, the point guard position, go through like more of a hierarchy. Those are the 2 positions maybe need addressing. A lot of stuff to do. Bubs Arcade Fire says, "What's up, amateur?" Well, it's been a stressful week. Let's say that. I'm happy to be on here talking some ball though. I want to get to the NBA playoffs shortly here. So I can only go till 6:30 here before I got to go to the gym. But do want to talk NBA playoffs? Do want to talk about Chris Boucher before we go here as well? What Phoenix says? What do you think are going to be the worst contracts in the NBA going forwards? I'm thinking back to the back half of Pascal's new max and Jimmy Butler's extension. Pascal one's interesting. That has a potential to look bad in around year 4. I wouldn't say that's, looking to be one of the worst contracts in the NBA. Rudy Gobert, as much as I'm probably about to defend Rudy Gobert, that contract is still absolutely egregious. I understand he's one of the 4th defensive player of the year, but I think considering... I think you could find a center who plays great defense for a lot less than this contract. He's not going to be as good as Gobert, but I think paying somebody worse than Gobert $25 million is more beneficial than paying Rudy Gobert 43 when he's 32 years old, or 46 when he's 33 years old. I guess there's actually only 2 years left on this contract, but it's $44 million this year. It's $46.5 million the next year. You've tied up a lot of assets in this. He's the pair. He's like the main guy you've invested in to play next to Anthony Edwards. I think that will continue to be just a puzzling trade. I understand they're in the conference finals right now, and they're probably going to be out in the conference finals, but they had a chance to win an NBA championship, which makes it all worth it in the end. But I think they will regret not investing elsewhere to find Anthony Edwards a co-star. Maybe I'm wrong. But the worst contracts in the NBA. Wow, it's been a while since we've seen these guys, and like numbers are fresh in my mind. Whatever Klay Thompson's next contract is might look really bad. I don't know how much he's going to get, but I feel like somebody is going to overpay there. That's one that could look bad in a few years. Like if he gets like a 3 or 4 year contract on a $30+ million, which I don't think is impossible, that could become a problem. Other than that, nothing's really jumping out to me. Rudy Gobert was the first thing that jumped out. Klay Thompson as well. But what do you guys think? Worst contracts in the NBA in a few years' time. What do you think it's going to look like? I think we should trade for Josh Giddey. I really don't like Josh Giddey, honestly. I'm not a fan. Not a floor spacer, not a great defender. There's no key attribute that he excels in. And it was exposed pretty heavily in the playoffs for the Thunder, who had to almost take him out of rotation. They didn't, but maybe they should have taken him out of rotation. People keep saying draft center, but we playing at power forward. Boucher gets no minutes. He might be gone. We're talking about that. Olenka is stretch 5. I agree. So, well, power forward to me, like Scotty Barnes does that role. I guess, you can address the depth there. Ochai Agbaji can kind of do it. But I guess there really is no actual power forward. I don't think the power forward position really exists much anymore. Like, if you're a big 4, you play as a 5. If you're a small 4, you can play as a 3. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. Maybe adding some depth there would be something to consider as well. Would it be a hot take to say Jaylen Brown if the Celtics can't win it? Like, to trade for Jaylen Brown? What do you mean by Jaylen Brown? For the Raptors, that's just not happening. Aside from all the off-court issues, he's good at everything, but not great at anything. He's not good at everything. He's not good at shooting. He's not good on defense. In fact, he's very bad on defense. He's good at a lot of little things, but you're right. He is not great at anything, and he wouldn't make an impact on the Raptors. I agree with that, NJ. I'm 6'2", dunking from the free throw line in 92. Like RJ, what? Like RJ, I guess positions aren't as like when I think point guard and shooting guard are pretty distinct. But even like a shooting guard is like a 2 or 3. You can play as a small forward. Forwards are interchangeable, I think, as a 3 or a 4 a lot of the time. Bigs are bigs, obviously. The center position is completely its own thing there, but I don't want to hold people to like that vacuum position. Like RJ, look, if RJ's playing as a 2, then Grady's the 3. That's fine. It's just that type of player you think of when you think of shooting guard. I picture Grady Dick, and I think of RJ as a small forward. But yeah, it's just about balancing out the skills there. Rudy really putting all his points on drop coverage, help side, rim to turn. That's pretty much it. And look, it works for them if you cater your team to it, and it works. But not having as much switchability is an issue. Paul George's max is going to be egregious. He's already regressed so much. That one could look bad if injuries do catch up a little bit. Oh, well, Ben Simmons, I forgot about that. That is the worst contract. You're right, Bubs. That is horrible. I feel like Raptors will pick best available 9 regardless of position. Yeah, of course, but I always like to think what the focus is going to be on who they want. But yeah, they're always looking out for the talent over positions. We've seen that in the past, and it's worked out in the past. Trade Jakob Poeltl to Memphis or OKC for the 2024 first-round draft pick. They won't want a 2024 pick. Young prospects. I suppose OKC could offer something there, but then you once again start the cycle of needing a center still. And I promise that's not Zach Edey, and there's not really one in the offseason I want to pick up. If the Raptors kept their 6th pick, I would pick Rob Dillingham. That'd be something I'd be interested in with the 6th pick, 100%. Want to switch over here. As Bub says, I hope Dallas can win a chip this year. I love kind of Phoenix says, by the way, I'd rather just keep him. Yeah, that's my thing. I'd rather just keep him than have to figure out the center position again. I do want to talk about the playoffs. Pacers were, you guys know me. I am a Celtics hater. I want the Celtics to lose. So the Pacers series was very frustrating for me because I wanted the Pacers to win. How did they lose this series 4-0? I mean, they kept every game competitive. They really did. The Pacers were constantly competitive. And it's, you can seriously make a case that at this point, well, we would have had game 5 yesterday. It could have easily been not even 2-2. It could have been a 3-1 series for the Pacers. They led by 3 with 9 seconds left and the ball in game 1. I think in NBA playoff history, I heard a stat, nobody has ever lost from that position before. But they did, of course. They were up 8 late in game 3. They're up 8 late in game 4. In fact, they had a 90% win probability in games 1, 3, and 4 in the fourth quarter. So it's pretty astonishing to lose one of those games, let alone all 3 of those games. It was just crazy. Now, part of it is you have to give some credit to the Celtics because, I'm putting all this on, the Pacers how they bully the game. You have to give credit to the Celtics. They had some outstanding finishes to games. 23-13 run in the final 6:45 of game 1 to go to overtime. All right, I don't know if that includes the overtime, but to finish off the game and eventually get the win. Game 3, 15-4 run in the last 3 minutes. Game 4, 15-4 run in the final 5 minutes and 50 seconds. My constant criticism of the Celtics is when it becomes the clutch, when it becomes slower, that's where they falter. That's where they are at their worst. But this year, I coming from an avid Celtics hater, the Celtics are executing in the clutch. Absolutely executing the clutch. Maybe it's not coming all the time from Tatum. In fact, there's been some blemishes on his resume in fourth quarter. Perhaps why he didn't get Conference Finals MVP. But the Celtics have a lot. They don't even have Porzingis right now, and they are coming through in big moments. The Pacers looked like a young team who most of which were the first time in that deep of a playoff run, aside from, of course, Pascal Siakam, who's been there, done that, won an NBA championship. They looked like a team that was inexperienced, and they struggled without their pace when things slowed down in the fourth quarter. And decision-making, like Game 1, my goodness, the amount of things they did so poorly with execution. Like Tyrese Halliburton yanking a 3, early shot clock with 50 seconds left. People question not calling a timeout. Not fouling up 3 late. People question not because the inbound play. People question Game 3 allowing Andrew Nembhard to isolate 1v4 with Drew Holiday hounding him, not calling a timeout there to set up a play. A big learning curve for the Indiana Pacers. But for the Boston Celtics, people are going to talk about this so-called Mickey Mouse run to the finals. Look, it's an easy run. The reason it's an easy run to the finals is because, well, it's a bit of an easier run than normal, but also the Celtics make it look so easy because they are so good. So I can't really fault the team for beating who's in front of them. Maybe they haven't been at their best, but they literally haven't needed to be at their best. I wish the Pacers would have snuck out a Game 1 or something to make the series a whole lot more interesting, but the Celtics look like a real problem. And they haven't even gotten really out of second gear as of yet. So I'll credit them for making it look perhaps as easy as that is. I also wanted Indiana to win because of Spicy P. It would have been nice to see him succeed. I am starting to learn that Pascal Siakam was my favorite Raptors player because I very, very much still want him to succeed. Maybe if Lowry didn't play for teams I didn't really dislike, I would like him more and want more success there. But I really am a Pascal Siakam fan. The issue with the Pacers' high-style pace, trying to avoid the half-court leads to rush decisions and turnovers. Yeah, and we saw that late games as well, and it's just an inexperienced team that really, really showcased it. A lot of young players, but we'll see how they recover from here. I don't think this is one where you think it's like an upward trajectory. The success will not be linear here. This was an outstanding season by the Pacers, but the East is going to be more difficult next season. It's going to be really tough for the Pacers to recreate this next season. Full credit to them if they can do it. But a lot of things were revealed. Nesmith is a great defender. He's really blossomed into a bigger role. Andrew Nembhard is fantastic. You're really finding stuff with Siakam, going to the post up a whole lot more, finding success there. All I have to do is listen to my videos early season, Rick Carlisle. I could have told you about the Siakam post-ups, especially in the half court. So we'll see. Yeah, Boston, the super team, I don't know if it'll age out, Tatum's not that old. Brown is not that old. I hope it ages out. I hope it peters out. I mean, it's clear they're right there. Obviously, they're in the finals again. They're the favorites to win, and they're going to be big favorites, but even if they don't win this year, I'd love an implosion. I'd love an overreaction. But this is not a case of, insanity is repeating something over and over when you know it's going to be the same result. I don't think that's the case here. Sports is high variance. They're all still young. Like Tatum in those older runs is very young. Like that Warriors series where he was pathetic a lot of the time. He's still very young. I don't know. I hate the Celtics, but I think keeping that team together makes the most sense, even if they don't win this year. Oh my God, more Jacob trade. Let's see this. Six got highlight reels. What do you think about the trade with some sort of combination of Pirtle, Boucher, Brown, McDaniels, Golden State for some combination of Wiggins, Moody, Chris Paul, Conley? Somebody brought it up earlier. I didn't really think about this, but Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher to the Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, Moses Moody, and a first-round pick. That's really interesting. I value Golden State Warriors' future first highly because I think they're going to stink in a few years. They kind of already do. And I like Moses Moody. And he can shoot. I think there might be something there. I really don't like the Andrew Wiggins contract, but I think there might be something there for sure. Do you want to give up 20% of your cap to Wiggins? That's the thing. That's the problem. Is it worth it because you're getting a first, possibly a good first, and a decent young player, Moses Moody? That'll be a discussion. But yeah, the Wiggins thing is just how much you can believe he can continue to be effective for another 3 years. And he's already 29. When's his birthday? He's already turned 20. So he'll be 32 at the end of the contract. No, he'll be 3 years' time. 32. His contract will be done when he's 32. There might be an upside for that trade. But it is 3 years. Yeah, that's the thing. Keep yakking unless there's a huge return. Yeah. If somebody really wants Pirtle, makes a big trade, sure. But I wouldn't go out selling on Pirtle. You know what I mean? Absolutely not. Other series, Western Conference side of things. Man, I was really high on the Mavericks, on the Wolves coming to this series. Just hasn't really been there for them. Karl Anthony Towns kind of back to his normal playoff self, not playing well. Perhaps he had a good game here in Game 4, but perhaps we oversold Anthony Edwards a little bit. But I think a whole lot of credit has to go to the Dallas Mavericks. When I saw the Dallas series against OKC, it was a case of the Dallas role players really propelling the Mavericks forward, and Doncic and Kyrie weren't always at their best. And I put too much thought into the role players regressing and not enough into the role players continuing to be good, but Kyrie and Luka taking on next steps. And that's what we've gotten here. But I think this is a great example of how high variance sports can be. Like Minnesota were on the edge of winning Game 1, literally one missed shot away from winning Game 2, or perhaps not switching Gobert onto Luka, although Luka might have cooked anybody. Anyways, we're one missed 3 away from winning Game 2. We're up big in Game 3, blew it late, and end up winning a close one in Game 4. Like, this series could easily be 3-1 the other way, could easily be 2-2, but here it's 3-1 Dallas. Minnesota trying to become the first team to reverse that 3-0 lead. Still, nobody has done that in NBA history. Dallas are just so good defensively, and they've just got the trump card with Luka Doncic doing everything for that team. But I think too much criticism for this series is going on Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, what won him his 4th Defensive Player of the Year award was his roaming on defense, his free safety role on defense. It's never been about getting the most difficult assignment. It's been about the rim protection. And I think it's just very reactionary to kind of shit on him for this series. But he's leading the Wolves in plus-minus in the playoffs. He's averaging normal Rudy Gobert numbers, 12 points, 10 rebounds on high efficiency because he's always taking shots right at the rim. So, you have the Nuggets series where Cat plays out of his mind defending Jokic, and it gives Rudy Gobert the platform to be that free safety on defense, which he excelled at. And this series, Cat hasn't really been the same guy. It's also been more difficult for Cat to be the same guy because Dallas's role players have been so good. PJ Washington has spaced the floor so well. Derek Jones is having another terrific series. Derek Lively's a problem. Gafford's a problem with their mobility. Then you have Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving being, the superstar players that they are. Sometimes just sports can be a coin flip right near the end, especially for basketball. And Dallas have made their own luck. They've made the big shots. They've in the biggest moments. They have come through, and that's why they're up 3-1 potentially en route to an NBA Finals here. All the teams I care about now are out of playoffs. Watching CBL now, it's extremely entertaining pro ball. It's extremely entertaining pro ball. Jalen Harris and Teddy Allen balling out. Honestly, CBL is something I'd want to get into, but there's too much sports for me to put energy in, and unfortunately, CBL is just not one I can do. There's just too many sports out there. with all due respect, I want the CEBL to succeed. It just doesn't have space for my attention, unfortunately. But hey, I love pro ball wherever I can get it. I'm excited for a WNBA team in Toronto. I'm going to try and get. Actually, well, I would have had to already apply for season tickets, but I'll have to see what the prices look like for that for sure. I was looking up the other day. Gobert on switches is holding teams to 0.7 points per possession in isolation. That is quite good for a player like him. Look, he got switched onto Luka. That was dumb, and then he got cooked. But even if you watch that play back, Gobert has a hand up. Doncic makes a ridiculous shot, and he wins the game. Yeah. Is the 3-0 comeback possible for Minnesota given how every game went in this series? It's possible. Like, Minnesota are going to be favored in games 5 and 7. Minnesota are going to be 4-point favorites probably for game 5 tonight. Let's check. Minnesota are not playing tonight. They play tomorrow, of course. Minnesota are 4.5 to 5-point favorites. Game 5. Sorry, that's game 5. Game 4, they'll probably be. Sorry. Game 7, they'd probably be, shrink that down a little bit, -4, 4-point favorites. And game 6, they'll be +1.5 again. +1, maybe after winning 2 games in a row. It's possible, but no team's ever done it. You know how difficult it can be. The best chance for it to happen would have been Boston last year because they were a really good team playing a team they're much better than, where they're trying to come back from 3-0 lead. But it's tough. It's possible, though. The suggestion Purdue tries to add one more young talent to this nucleus of barbecue, BBQ, in the upcoming loaded draft next year, 2025. We know how bad we are without Pirtle in the lineup. Yeah, so I'm saying that's why you keep Pirtle. But I wouldn't mind getting a Warriors pick to supplement later on without trading Pirtle. You know what I mean? Would you trade Bruce Brown for Andrew Wiggins? That's the thing. If you can get Moody and a first, and you can unload Chris Boucher's contract, then an Andrew Wiggins trade could be a whole lot more interesting. And before I go, I did want to talk about a little bit more on Chris Boucher. So, big topic that's come up over the course of the stream has been a potential trade involving Bruce Brown heading to the Golden State Warriors, the Warriors wanting to offload that Andrew Wiggins contract, potentially to make that more worthwhile. They can give Moses Moody, a decent young player who can space the floor, and a future first, and the way the Warriors are heading, a future first from the Warriors is valuable. But in the process, they could take the Chris Boucher contract, and that could be a way for the Raptors to trade Chris Boucher, because that trade could become something that is very difficult for the Raptors to execute. But how did we actually get here with Chris Boucher? Chris Boucher has been, what's the right word for him? A loyal player to the Raptors, but he really is a loose cannon. You never know exactly what you're going to get out of Chris Boucher. When you can fire that thing straight, man, do you have an impactful player. But the consistency out of Chris Boucher just really hasn't been there for the Raptors throughout his tenure here. Throughout his tenure, he's done some excellent things. He's been key parts of rotations, mostly with the Nick Nurse era. He's NBA champion with the Raptors. He's a G League MVP, DPOY with the Raptors 905. Chris Boucher has done a lot of great things for the Raptors, but his time with the team seems to be coming to an end. And it seemed as though it was coming to an end this season, because even though the Raptors were completely tanking, like just completely, utterly tanking to the end of the season, Chris Boucher still couldn't get any playtime. And the Raptors Republic released a article on Chris Boucher where they talked about his deficiencies, but they also talked about a lot of things he did well for the Raptors. And some of the things brought up in this article were mentioning that perhaps a lot of what Chris Boucher brings in the positive end was the reason he didn't play. Was he too good for the Raptors during the tanking part of the season before he did get injured and missed the rest of the year, missed the last little bit of the season? I'm not so sure about that. What it probably came down to is, even in the Nick Nurse tenure with the Raptors, Chris Boucher sometimes fell out of rotation because he's just difficult to predict. And in the Darko Rajakovic offensive system, you can't be unpredictable, really. There is a specific thing he wants, and he wants very quick decision-making, which was also highlighted in this article as well, saying Darko wants quick decision-making. Chris Boucher very much doesn't have that. One player I would look at, not mention this article here, that I think maybe should have been a good comparison, is you look at Precious Achiuwa with Darko, and things just were not working there. But Precious Achiuwa in New York with the Knicks was a lot better, because with the Knicks, Achiuwa could just be a very simplified version of the player he was in Toronto. He had a very simplified role, specific role to execute on a night-to-night basis. Not a lot of thinking. Less thinking is better. And I think that is kind of the environment that Chris Boucher needs to succeed. And I still think there is an area for Chris Boucher to play well. Potentially, one of those areas could be Chris Boucher ending up in the Golden State Warriors, who could maybe use an energy player like that, who's going to hound for those offensive rebounds on those 3 balls by Steph Curry, potentially Klay Thompson if he's still with the team. Perhaps Chris Boucher is a decent fit for that team coming off the bench, bringing that sort of energy, having a more simplified role. There are some certain things that Chris Boucher can do well for a team, but there still are those inconsistencies that are going to make it a little bit difficult to trade him. He still got 50 games this season, only averaged 6 points per game. 3-point percentage on lower volume was decent, 33%. 50% shooting from the field. Still, again, gets rebounds. 1 offensive rebound per game, 4 rebounds per game. And if we want to extend these stats to a per 36 number, 16 points per game per 36, 10 rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds. Like, there's clearly still ways he can be effective. There are ways he can be ineffective when that 3-ball shot isn't falling, when he's just not contributing on offense, when he's getting lost on defense, getting baited into fouls, jumping for unnecessary pump fakes. It's difficult to love Chris Boucher. You know, it's a love-hate relationship. When he's on, wow, how good of a player can he be? When he's off, man, is he off. And I think as much as there's, again, positive things Chris Boucher can bring to your team, it's pretty clear that Darko doesn't really fancy him as a player. And it's pretty clear that there's not really a desire to have him on the team going forward. So what would some sort of trade look like? That's where difficulty can come here. Chris Boucher is making about $11 million next season. It's a pretty tough contract to swallow. It's not a lot of money, but perhaps the length of the contract was a problem, and the Raptors would probably want to go back and not give him the 3-year deal here. But he's got 1 more year in his contract worth just under $11 million per year. He's 31 years old, turned 31 early in the year, going to be 32 at the end of the season. There clearly still are pieces of ability in there. It's just which team needs that sort of player. And any team that has a desire to bring that sort of player in, what would they actually be looking to give away to make that trade happen? Is there any sort of scenario where a team looks at Chris Boucher and says, yeah, that's the type of player we need. Let's go out and search for a trade to get him. Let's be a buyer here. Or is Chris Boucher more so doomed to be salary matching contract because it's a very tradable contract for the Raptors for salary matching purposes? Is he going to be the piece that teams are trying to get, or is he going to be that throw-in piece of a trade, kind of like Precious Achiuwa was for the New York Knicks when OG Anunoby ended up there right at the end of 2023? That's going to be the bigger question here because, again, there are talents here. There are abilities here. There is stuff that Chris Boucher brings on the positive end. But again, it's just that loose cannon sort of thing. So if a team can tighten that up, get him in a more simplified role, not thinking as much. You know, sometimes taking that 3-ball shot, but mostly being an energy guy, crashing the glass, not having to play as the rim protector. Is there a role somewhere in the NBA where Chris Boucher can thrive next season? I think there's a really good comment here. Ryan K mentioning he could be great for the Mavs, but they have PJ now. I wouldn't say what I agree with that. Hey, maybe teams look at PJ Washington, somebody who can play as a bit of a stretch 4, who can shoot the 3-ball. PJ Washington a bit younger, maybe brings a little bit more there, but who would have thought PJ Washington would be playing like this with the Mavs after leaving the Charlotte Hornets? Maybe a lot of it is situational. Maybe a lot of it is a certain environment that Chris Boucher needs that he's just not getting with the Toronto Raptors. This is where there are going to be questions here. Ultimately, what does it look like for a trade? I'm not sure. Gregory says in chat, Boucher was very entertaining. Listen, he always got you up out of your chair for the right or wrong reasons. He brought excitement. He brought something to the game that maybe nobody else did bring to the game. There are a lot of fantastic moments, a lot of not so great moments that I can vividly remember as well. I don't want to get in. There was one game where the Raptors needed like one stop to win the game. I think they were up 2 against Brooklyn in Brooklyn, and he got baited into a very obvious pump fake 3 where the guy was never going to shoot, and Boucher jumped and ended up like out of bounds. Anyways, he ended up out of bounds. Raptors lost the game when they should have won if he hadn't made that defensive error. Anyways, there's probably a lot of those, but I think there's a team out there who looks at Boucher and thinks he could be a good piece to bring in for the depth. I think Boston is a good situation. Could they feel like Boucher adds something that they don't have to the team? There's a potential for that 100%. Teams look at what P.J. Washington has done. Maybe they look at Chris Boucher and think he can do the same. Ultimately, though, I think it will be difficult to trade Boucher, but I would love to free up that $10 million in the offseason for sure. I would love to free up that roster spot for somebody who's actually going to play. Because when the Raptors, even before they were tanking and they were struggling, like even as not the biggest Chris Boucher fan, I was calling for it. Why is Chris Boucher still not getting play time? There is clearly no desire to have him in the rotation, so do what you can to get him off your roster, free up the money, and free up that roster spot. And I wish him all the best in the future because his time here, look, as it was put, it was entertaining. There was good, there was bad, there was ugly, but a lot of respect goes to Chris Boucher for what he's brought to the Raptors over the years, 100%. Boucher got less than half the minutes he got the year 4 on a tanking season. I think he could be utilized much better. He could have been utilized much better. I agree. He could have been utilized much better. I'm not going to dispute that. It's clear Darko did not want him. It's clear Darko did not want him on the team. That's really all there is to it. All right, I've gone a little bit over time here. Any final questions you guys may have, please get them in here because I need to go and get ready to go to the gym. One sec. Sorry if you hear my dog. Let's see. He's a great energy fill-in player, but if we have any value pieces for him in a bigger trade, that's worth it. Yeah, I think the more likely outcome is that he becomes the filler in a trade, like the Bruce Brown, Andrew Wiggins one that we said earlier. But I think there's going to be a team out there that thinks he could do something for them. Trenton Brown plus first for Keegan Murray. Not going to happen. The Kings value Keegan Murray extraordinarily high. They value him like he's their 3rd star. So, Kings not trading him, unfortunately. What else are you be doing in the gym? I'm actually doing kickboxing, so I guess all of them. Going to a boxing studio, more so than the gym. I just kept it vague. Santi Aldama and Brandon Clark from his. Those are... No, Brandon Clark's an interesting piece. I like Brandon Clark a lot. That would be a nice big to have in the rotation because he could be like in the power forward rotation, but if Pearl's out, he could play as a big too. He can play as both. Brandon Clark's an interesting one. Aldama as well, though I don't think Aldama is up for trade. All right, guys. Last question here. Giovanni says, if Jacob was traded, what team is Jacob likely to go to? OKC, because OKC are shopping for a big. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This will be only stream of the week. Again, if you guys earlier had some issues at home, going to be doing my best to get back into the swing of content. Videos on this channel, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Videos in the second channel, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Streams here when the NBA season is over. We're gonna be locked into Tuesday and Thursday, not just once a week, but this will be the only stream of the week for this week. Thank you so much, guys. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. I'll be back tomorrow with the second channel video. I'll be back on Friday for another video here on Amateur Sports. Hope to see you at all the pieces of content we have coming your way